Hey everyone, Enrique here. Welcome to another review. We're back once again with another review for X-Men 97. This time we're taking a look at episode 5 from the second season, Weapon X, Lies and DVDs. This is in many ways a focus episode on Wolverine, aka Logan. But even though this is supposed to be his episode, it is also an episode focused on Morph as well. Now, I'm gonna get to in a moment of why, but needless to say, this was regarded by many people as the weakest episode of this season and probably the entire show, as it has a lot of problems that they need to be addressed. And I'm going to do so here in this review. So don't fret. I'm going to get to why people feel the way they do. But first, let's talk about what is the episode's plot. So, in order to do so, I have to address the little post-credit scene that we got in the last episode. You see, Logan met with Captain America and with Black Widow. Both of them are voiced by Josh Keaton and Lake Bell, who you already know for being the voice of Poison Ivy in the Harley Quinn show. But in here, we see that Logan is trying to find out about Weapon X, and he seems that he's putting a team together in order to go to that mission. And we see that display on this episode as Logan reunites with a couple of people he already knows about, not just Morph, but also a few members of the Weapon X program, particularly Sabretooth and Maverick, as well as others, in order to find out about a secret base they had experiments on the adamantium and about themselves. But little did they know, they encountered something that they never expected. An alien race called the Brood taking over the facility, in which they are infecting people with their blood and turning them into brutes as well. So it's not only up to Team Weapon X in order to find out what is going on, but also it's up to them to figure out how to stop the Brood, how Logan is going to get his adamantium bones back, and how they're planning to continue the next mission. So yeah, this is pretty much an episode. If you want me to compare this plot to, say, a movie, I would say that it's like Predator and Suicide Squad meet Aliens and The Thing. It's pretty much an action-packed movie, or in this case, an action-packed episode in which we see a couple of teammates who, most of them are just victims of the alien race that are attacking them, and they're finding a way to stop them. So it's like an 80s action movie, or a horror film like The Thing, in which you trying to survive the upcoming battles, only to turn out that one of your teammates gets infected by something. And that is one of the things that makes this episode so appealing, because I'm a huge fan of 80s action films. I have a fondness for those 80s horror films as well, in which, like Alien or even Predator or John Carpenter's The Thing, is making the creatures almost like very, very scary looking, and a lot of them can be really menacing for our teammates. Nobody is safe. Nobody is in a safe spot, so it's up to them to figure out what to do and how to stop. Now let's talk about our teammates. So we already know the first two ones, in this case Wolverine and Morph, who are voiced specifically by Cal Dodd and of course JP Karliak. Those two are the focus on this episode. We see how Wolverine and Morph are trying to figure out about the Weapon X program. I'm gonna get into why Morph is there, but needless to say, he serves as both comic relief and the moral compass of the team, trying to his best to keep all the teammates back together and trying to maintain the group before things got heavily wrong. And this team of misfits and monsters are pretty much people that Logan already has history with. Now, Logan doesn't do much in this episode, but he brings a lot of information about the Weapon X program. He's still the best at what he does, which is killing things. He, of course, gets the best action sequences when it comes to fighting any kind of enemy or brood. So, it's still great. But there are problems with it, which I get, like I said, I'm going to get into in a moment. But now let's talk about the rest of the teammates, who also get as much a spotlight as the others, particularly Graydon Creed Sr., aka Sabretooth, voiced by Darren DePaul. Now, the actor already voices another character, which I'm gonna get into just a bit, but he is the newest voice for Sabretooth. Now, Sabretooth, in many respects, has a lot of huge history with Logan, with Wolverine. He already knows about the Weapon X programs. He's not the same as Wolverine. He's a little bit older, but he in many ways still a savage one. He has the power of healing factor, as well as having his nails as claws that could rip to shreds to his enemies. So he also has a similar power that ability just as Logan has. But he also serves as a wild card, like the guy you don't know who is he going to turn into, because we already know he's in it for himself. Sabretooth has always had a rivalry with Wolverine, given to their past. They don't know exactly how they ended up becoming enemies. They did horrible things to each other. Sabretooth has always been more prone to killing people in a more savage way. Logan is also a savage, but he also has a heart. I mean, he also has his own remorse and feelings. And that's what contrasts with Sabretooth, makes him a little bit more dangerous. Now, another teammate that we get to see in this episode is Yuriko Oyama, aka Lady Deathstrike, played by Erika Ishii. Now, Yuriko, just like Sabretooth, has history with Logan as well. But in the case of Logan, they used to be lovers. If you remember the first two episodes from the third season of the original run of the X-Men, you will already know that Yuriko has history with Logan due to their past relationships. She used to be an old flame from Logan. They used to be in love with one another. But circumstances that were too complicated and unfortunately not exactly addressed in this episode, we see that Yuriko gained a little bit of resentment and hate towards Logan. So, with the help of the reverbs, decided to embody herself with a lot of adamantium, creating nail claws, in which she, after that, became Lady Deathstrike. So they have a history and a rivalry as well. But in here, she seems to be in the good side, or at the very least, in the side of the Team Weapon X. She doesn't seem to go after Logan. She doesn't compromise the mission for revenge, and that is because of what happened to her father, Professor Oyama, which is another person who was responsible for Yuriko's and Logan's adamantium skeleton and body. So they have a lot of history with the adamantium, but she seems to be more level-headed, more calm. Like, yeah, she has some resentment towards Logan, and she cannot stand Morph, but she is not an idiot. She understands that the mission is supposed to be very essential, especially with an alien race who are taking over people. They're trying their best in order to stop them from getting more attacks and all that. So yeah, there's a lot of things here that they are putting into this story. So she knows that she has to do something, or she has to keep her mind focused so they don't die. So other teammates that make an appearance here are, in this case, David North, aka Maverick, played by Crispin Freeman. I gotta say, when I hear Maverick's voice in this episode, I almost thought that was Phil Lamar doing another accent, but in reality, it is Crispin Freeman, and I had to say, he really made me believe for once that he was Phil Lamar. Maybe it's because I used to hearing Phil Lamar a lot and how he delivers his voice lines. But that's the wonder of, voice acting. You can fool anybody with just a simple twitch of your voice. But regardless, in this case, Maverick, pretty much like Logan, also has history, but they're used to be teammates in the Weapon X program. He doesn't have any kind of revenge or any kind of, original vendetta against Logan. They seem to be good friends, and in fact, they appeared in the original episode. You see, Maverick, just like Sabretooth, Logan, and another woman called Kayla Silverfox, they also appeared in an episode from the original run called Weapon X Lies and Videotapes. Now, in many ways, this is a continuation of that story because Logan was trying to find out about his memories, how he lost his memories, about his connection with the other teammates, and how they were all fooled by the Weapon X program. Here, Maverick is the same thing. He also tries to, find out what's going on, but in that original run, he doesn't know what memories he could trust. Now, the abilities of Maverick, as many people don't know, is that he's also an expert marksman. He has advanced hand-to-hand combat, espionage mastery. He's a master tactician, demolition specialist. He's done a lot of assassin things. He also has the abilities of having kinetic absorption and redistribution, kinetic energy conversion, accelerated healing factor, and other stuff. He also is anti-healing factor acid. But in here, he doesn't seem to have a lot in this moment. He also becomes like a victim to the Brood and to a particular moment that happens in this episode. But yeah, it's good to see that he's still supporting Logan in a capacity. Another one that it gets a little bit of a mention, or becomes like how can I say this, like the expendable member of the team that gets taken down early, is Garrison Kane, played by Ben Pronsky. So Garrison Kane doesn't do much in this episode. In the comics, his abilities were to transform weapons attached to an armored body and to use them at his own speed. But here he gets taken down very quickly, but he gets some wonderful comedic scenes at the beginning of the episode. They don't do much, but it still shows a little bit of levity to the situation. So he doesn't do much. He does have his history with the Weapon X program, but unfortunately we don't get to see that because he's getting killed pretty early. But still, he made the moments count. But now let's talk about a surprise villain that we never got to see before, or at the very least that we got to see in the original run, and that is Omega Red, also voiced by Darren DePaul, the same voice actor for Sabretooth. I was shocked that he appeared in this episode because the last time I saw Omega Red, or the last time we saw him, he had a quick shot of the first season in which he was in Russia helping the team from that country fighting out against the human sentinels. And we don't know how he ended up there. I assume that maybe he got captured again and then he was taken to the facility of the Weapon X program later on into the year, but we don't know. We don't know, and we unfortunately don't know all the circumstances. He still provides as a menacing force to Weapon X and the Brood as well. He is almost like the source of inconvenience for the teammates, but also for the Brood as well. So doesn't do much. He's much more of a threat. but it's good to see that he's still posing a threat to Logan and his team. Now, it's important that now that we got our principal players out of the way, let's talk about the creatures that we're talking about here. The Brood. The Brood, not many people don't know. Most people compare these type of aliens to the ones we saw in the third season of the original X-Men. The alien race who took over a space vehicle called the Akanti, and they managed to infect people with their blood and make them, almost animal-like. But here, the Brood are different from that kind of race. If I had to compare the Brood to another creature, I would say that they were like the xenomorphs and the creatures from Jar Competence, the Thing. They can infect people and make them into Brood as well. They did so with another person called Dr. Cornelius. Now, Dr. Cornelius was an odd scientist in the Weapon X program who was studying in particular the Brood about their abilities, how their blood can infect people, and how they can use them for their own experiments. But then it went wrong and the lab got compromised by the Brood. So the idea of these alien creatures is that they want to breed with the best. They want to take over the bodies of only the people who are the best at what they do, meaning that they can take the strongest, the most agile people and make them into Brood as well. And in this case, we can see that in particular when they infect Wolverine with the Brood's blood, and that makes him into a Wolverine, if you will, or a Brooderine or something like that. I don't know. I'm just trying to think names here. But needless to say, the Brood took over Logan's body as well as Dr. Cornelius's body, and they turn them into monsters. And they can be almost as intimidating and threatening as the Xenomorphs or the Thing from Jar Carpenter's movie. They can infect people, they can make them into sentients. They also have a human hybrid mind, or a hive mind, if you will, and they can cause a lot of domination if they so choose to, if they ended up leaving the place, which is a higher stakes for the teams because they don't want the Brood to take over the world. Apocalypse is bad enough, but having an alien race with a hive mind is even worse. It's like the invasion of the body snatchers. It can be very destructive or very menacing for the human race and mutant race as well. Now, with all that out of the way, now that I already mentioned the teams and the Brood, now let's talk about what I need to address, and that is the focus of this episode: Wolverine and Morph. So, in particular, this whole story is revolved about Wolverine and his connection with the Weapon X program. But it is also a focus on Morph as well. Now, some people are wondering why Morph is in this at all. Well, it's not just because Wolverine and Morph are not only best friends, but because Morph already understands what it's like to be experimented on by a mad scientist. He already understands the stakes of helping Logan and understanding what the hell's going on, and there's more into that. Morph understands that he has to help his friend, and who deeply down he's in love with. We already know that Morph has feelings for Logan, romantic feelings, which is not easy for him. And Morph not only helps our heroes or our version of a team in this episode, but he also kind of forms a connection with each character. Particularly, Morph creates kind of like a bond with Lady Deathstrike. Now, I already said it before, Yuriko has history with Logan in a romantic way, which ended up going badly. But in the case of Lady Deathstrike, she doesn't know why Morph is with them. She calls Morph Kono, which is a Japanese creature from legend in which he could take the form of any kind of creature, which is the speciality of Morph in this episode. Speaking of which, Morph's abilities to morph into, any particular person, he does so with taking over or taking the forms of Spider-Man, Deadpool, Silver Samurai, The Thing, and so many others in order to combat or to quell Logan's mindset when he's taken over by the Brute, which is coming to a lot of perspective into the teammates. It makes Lady Deathstrike feeling a little bit of sympathy towards Morph. Maybe she realizes that he has feelings for him as well. It's hard to say, but he becomes almost like the focus, almost like the POV character. Through him, we learn more about the Weapon X program, and we learn more about Logan's history and his mindset. Now, this caused a lot of people to have issues with the episode because this was supposed to be focused on Wolverine in particular, since he's the one that we know the most and he has always been in other medias, being the focus and all that. Now, why not here? Well, I'm just speculating, and this is just me given my own, theories. But given the fact that Cal Dodd is already old and his voice can give up at any time. I mean, voice acting is not easy, guys. It takes a lot of effort to put your energy into your voice. I mean, telling you this is putting a lot of energy into this, recording. But in particular with I said, in particular with Cal Dodd, I assume, and this is just me, but maybe he's not able to keep up with the same pace as he used to before. Maybe he is already feeling the agency of his voice, and he doesn't know how to carry or doesn't have the ability to carry an episode on its own, just small parts. It's just speculation, but I'm just saying maybe he just is taking a little bit of a backseat in his own episode, probably because of that, and maybe giving the focus on J.P. Kaliak as Morph, who is recently new. Maybe he's giving the more focus to that episode, to that. I don't know. It's just speculation. I'm just rambling and just trying to figure out why Morph gets the most focus than Wolverine. But it's just my speculation. Now, let's address what many people had complained about this episode in particular. Was this the weakest episode of this season, or in general X-Men 97? Well, we still get some pretty good animation, some great action sequences, some great banter between our characters, but yeah, I have to admit that this is the weakest one. For once, for starters in particular, it's not focused on the whole scope about Apocalypse and his plans, and we don't know exactly how getting an adamantium claws is gonna get everything together. But needless to say, it doesn't focus on the larger story that is Apocalypse return and his plans. It's just like a Wolverine focused episode. But speaking of which, is one many people have problems with this episode in particular. That is not focused on Wolverine as a whole, but also focused more about his entire backstory and Morph, which made a lot of people upset. And this will go into something I always wanted to say, but I'm going to reserve that to the end. But it has a lot of people having problems with that. Other things that people find a problem with is how they use Morph as just a glorified cameo machine, that he could create all these bodies and all these other heroes and teammates. But I never found it the biggest problem in them all. It's just the way Morph can utilize his powers more effectively, and like I said, his connection to Logan. Other things that people have complained about is how do all these teammates can be together, in particular Sabretooth and Lady Deathstrike. Now, that I have to agree. Because Sabretooth, like we know, he's a wild card. He doesn't care too much about his backstory, only which about what he does in the future. Although he doesn't like to be utilized by other people, especially humans, but he still doesn't answer the question of why he's so a teammate with Wolverine in particular, given their backstory. And I mean, I know that I mentioned Weapon X lies and videotapes before, but it's still not enough for me to say, okay, Sabretooth wants to be part of this. And same goes with Lady Deathstrike. Remember, she blames Logan for what happened to her father, for his death, and she has some kind of vendetta against Logan because of that. But we never know why or how she was convinced to be this mission. I could speculate and say that maybe to find out about the Weapon X program and the adamantium studies that her father was carrying on, and maybe that would explain how he got killed. But it's still not enough, and we still don't know what happened to him. In any case, we don't know very much except for what we know about this episode and what we know before. Other things that people found problematic is that how Logan doesn't tell his teammates that he is looking for adamantium and he has to lie to them, especially to Morph, which makes it look like a little bit douchey because I get it. He's not as strong as he was with the adamantium claws, but still, I feel like he should have told them, okay, listen, I lost my adamantium bodies. I know you want to kill me, but right now there's a much bigger threat with Apocalypse, and I need to be prepared. And I feel like my adamantium body could be the only key. Now, Lady Deathstrike say, well, I have adamantium claws as well. I could take him down. And maybe Logan said, yeah, but you don't have a healing factor. Maybe Sabretooth seizes an opportunity to get adamantium in his body, but he fails to succeed. So, like, there should be a little bit of a connection between them, and maybe we should see a little bit more about how Logan convinced each member to be in this team and this mission. But we don't get to see that. That's probably one of the weak parts, or at the very least the downsides of having short episodes. I mean, we don't get to see very much, and we want to see a little bit more since we have so much information thrown at us that we need to understand why this happening. But hey, in any case, that's just one of the few problems that people had when it comes to this episode. But now it's time for me to address something that I feel like I wanted to address for a very, very long time. And yes, it goes into play of why I feel this episode was the weakest. And this is going to be designed as my Wolverine rant. Here's the thing, and this is something that I want you to take this with grain of salt, and I want you to understand it as much as possible, because this is something I've been keeping within myself for years. I am sick, very, very, very sick of Wolverine exposure. Like, overload of Wolverine. Like, I get it. A lot of people love this character. He is the rough boy, he's the cool bad guy or the cool guy with the healing factor and adamantium bodies. His backstory is interesting. He has a rogues gallery of the wazoo. He has interesting flames. But my God, I got sick of Wolverine very, very early. I would say since probably the movies, because I admit, Hugh Jackman, great as Wolverine, but he has been focused too much. And I feel like stories that involve Wolverine always tend to make him the principal player. But I feel like the same way a lot of people felt when they read the comics with Wolverine, in particular with the early stages. The writers feel like they don't know how to utilize Logan in a different way, or how to involve him in an interesting way. He's just the popular character there to provide, some viewership for the audience since they love Wolverine, but I never did. And I also have my biggest problem, which Wolverine tends to be put at the center of so many stories and be the focus of so many things because people love the character, they love his backstory, but I feel it came to the expense of so many people. I'm not kidding. There were a lot of characters who were shun aside because of Wolverine. Cyclops, Jean Grey, Gambit, Rogue. You don't. You might say, "Oh, but why Rogue and Gambit?" I mean, they were the most cooler characters as well. Yeah, but they were not the Wolverine for so many studios because they feel like, oh, he's like the action hero with adamantium claws that could kill people. We can make money out of him. But they also miss the great vast majority of mutants who are just as cooler, if not much cooler than him. They reduced Cyclops into be a superfluous character. They made Jean Grey into a damsel or the prize a Wolverine could never get. They turned other characters into just story vehicles for Logan as well. They don't have agency and they make Logan seem to be the only X-Men that matters. I swear to you, if Logan wasn't a mutant and they just have Logan and Fox only had Logan and his rogues gallery, they would have probably made him the focal point of that, saying, "Oh, he's Wolverine. We don't say he's a mutant, so let's just say, oh, he has the ability to heal himself." Maybe they would create a backstory for him of saying, "Oh, he got his powers because of something that happened to Witch or something like that." I don't know, or an experiment gone wrong. Needless to say, they focus a lot on Wolverine, and I got sick of it. I'm really not kidding when I say I'm done with Wolverine. I really am. Because he has taken over so much of X-Men media that I got enough. People might compare him to Spider-Man, but here's the thing. Spider-Man is humble enough and kind enough to be a hero. This is the kind of character who couldn't be played not just by Peter Parker, but also Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Miguel O'Hara, Ben Reilly. Anyone could be Spider-Man, and that is the beauty of that character and that story. Wolverine is just one Wolverine, and played by so many actors, put into so many stories that even in the original run, they have an excuse to put him into everything. I mean, almost in every single episode, particularly in season 4, they went out of the way to put more focus on Wolverine. And I just had enough of that. I really am. Because I'm done. I don't want more Wolverine. I really am done with the character. And yeah, this might be the weakest part of the episode, that Wolverine is not the focus. But it also comes to show you, not everything is about him anymore. We should just let the character be a side character for once. Hell, for a long time. Let's balance the scales by not focus on Wolverine that much and actually be a supporting player and put the focus on other characters. That's the beauty of X-Men. But people in studios have missed that. They have overlooked that fact. Hell, for as much as Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman want to say that Wolverine is the X-Men, that is a lie. That's a huge lie, because he's not the X-Men. He's not the mutant that matters. He's just a mutant with a cool backstory, but it's still not enough. And to that backstory, some people find it problematic as well, because we don't know very much about Wolverine, and maybe not many people want to know. It's like kind of like the Joker. You don't want to know about his backstory, and you always have some different interpretations, which is the beauty of not knowing everything. So that is my problem with Wolverine. The character might be cool, but I had enough. I already outgrow Wolverine. And I'm always going to support characters like Cyclops, Jean, Professor X, Beast, Rogue, Gambit. There's so many vast characters. Hell, Nightcrawler is even more interesting. But like I said, this is just me. This is my take on a character that I just had enough. And some ways I compare myself with Wolverine in the case of I have metal things in my body, and I had those with my surgeries. But I just had enough. I just had enough. I am sick to death of Wolverine, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you are as well. But that's just my take. Overall, yes, still a good show, a good episode, but it's definitely the weakest part of this episode. But if you're a Wolverine fan or any of the fan of any of the characters, then you might have a good time with this episode. And maybe if you're a fan of those 80s movies and those horror movies from back in the day, you might find this a little bit more fun to watch. But that's my take. I want to hear your thoughts as well. What do you think about this episode? Do you have problems, or do you find it to be an enjoyable episode? Let me know in the comment section below. So next week we're going back to focus on the X-Men, and until then, I'm Enrique, and I'll see you next time. Peace.